Being a straight white dude that likes Trump but is only into liberal women is a lot like being in the closet. Because it's like they're going to ask you about it eventually. And you have to say what we all say, which is, yeah, I don't really follow politics. But like, there's levels to this, man. You got to be discreet. You got to be really good at it. And it's not that hard once you get used to it. You just like lie a lot. If you can just lie really well, really well to liberal women and just like make them think that you aren't really into politics, then everything works out. It's totally fine.
Oh boy. So it seems some right-wing men have an answer for the female backlash against Trump and his supporters. Just lie to them. Naturally. Of course, that's their big brain idea. Aside from the obvious problems with beginning a relationship based on manipulation and inauthenticity, this does beg the deeper question of why? Why do conservative men want to date left-wing women? And I think I have the answer. First, I'm Hannah Cox with Base Politics. Welcome to my channel where I bring you my politically homeless takes on politics and culture. Before we dive in today, make sure you like this video, subscribe to my channel if you have not already, and of course, ring that notification bell so you never miss one of my episodes. You guys, why is this hot mess all over my timeline? Like, I cannot with these men.
Yeah, no, so I'm a small business owner, so I follow politics super closely.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you voted for...
Oh gosh, please don't get me started on Trump. I mean, seriously? Trump is a racist and a sexist. He has 26 allegations against him. He should have totally been impeached. I mean, my God.
Yeah, no, for sure. All of those things, for sure, yeah.
The internet makes me so tired some days. Like, I don't think I need to spend very much time on why this is wrong, right? Right? Lying is a deadly sin. Deceit and manipulation and being untruthful will wreck any relationship. Like, what is the point in being with someone that you have to hide who you are from? And why is this so common among men in particular? I don't know women who do this, period. I don't see women do this. I don't hear about women doing this. I don't know of anybody that can tell me of a woman doing this. Like, do women cheat? Yes, less than men do, but yes. Can they be deceitful or manipulative? Sure. But I don't see women faking whole personas, lying about their core values, or otherwise trying to trick men into liking them. And if you feel the need to do that, I think it tells you everything you need to know about yourself. Like, you're a bad person. You get that, right? Bad people have to cover up who they really are. Good people don't. And the entire point, I think one of the most beautiful things about being in a relationship is finding somebody who you can be your like real authentic self with, who you can fully like reveal yourself to, who you can be fully known by, and to fully know them, and to cover each other's weaknesses and to love each other in spite of your flaws. Like, what is even the point of being in a relationship for you if you are beginning your very basic foundational concepts of building that relationship on a lie? So to move through this discussion, I think it's just important to understand the kind of person who would do this. It is not all conservative men by any means. It's not even all MAGA men, but there is a subset of men who will do this and who are advertising it pretty proudly online right now. And I want to dissect this mentality. Sometime in the near future, I am going to make a whole episode on things that I think men should look for in women, because it has become pretty apparent to me that the convo is needed. And I think a lot of genuine, like straight up guys are really seeking tools to help them be more discerning. But at base, if you are like a good person, if you are a well-meaning man, you need to be looking for someone with similar values and mutual attraction. Like, you're not going to be able to have a good, solid relationship foundation if you are lacking in those two things. I get that some of these men are just trying to get laid and are like super sinister and are bought into like the whole red pill mentality where they're just trying to like take advantage of women and play women and get back at women and all of that. But I think a lot of right-wing guys and just guys in general seem to really want relationships. So if that is you, why not look for women who are already aligned with you and who would like your political views, who would agree with them? I noticed there were a lot of people in the comments asking this question. Here's one: why doesn't he like conservative women, with like laughing faces? I'm going to put a pin in that because I want to circle back to it in a moment. But before I get into that, I also think this is like such a weird strategy on these guys' part. Like they truly think there's no other way for a woman to suss out your character, to figure out your true political values, to figure out that you're a liar. Like women are detectives by nature. They are going to sniff you out. They're gonna figure it out. This isn't going to work for long. I saw one person in the comments say, I don't follow politics. That equals the status quo benefits me, so I don't see any reason to change it or to help others. I wouldn't date anyone that didn't care about politics either. Values need to match. And I actually have seen a lot of women saying this. Like most of the women are not just saying, who did you vote for? And like putting a check mark. Like they're not stupid. They're actually trying to figure out what people's values are. And I think who you vote for is one question they use to determine that. But there are many others. And if you're going around just saying, oh, I don't follow politics, I don't pay attention to all that, the vast majority of people, if they are political, are going to see that as a turnoff in and of itself, because it just shows you're kind of lazy. Like you haven't really come into adulthood. You're not really doing your duty as a citizen, as a man, to be informed, to be educated, to be a person of action, like we talked about earlier this week. Like that is not something that I really think is going to pass the sniff test for a lot of women. I loved this person in the comments. She said, this is why I ask who their favorite woman role model is. Family doesn't count. And I also ask who their favorite woman author is. And this is actually a really good question. I didn't think to do this back when I was dating, but this would be a good way to figure out if the man you're on a date with actually likes and respects women, because the vast majority of them, like this is crazy. I mean, men don't read as much as women do, period, which I think is a shortcoming, but they especially do not tend to consume books or any other media that is predominantly made by women. Like there might be outliers to that, but it's really a very interesting cultural phenomenon where women will read books by men, they will listen to male artists, they will see movies written by men. Like they're just as happy to consume media made by either gender. Men as a whole do not, which I not only think is sexist, I also think it's severely limiting. It's something that prevents them from understanding women better. So yeah, not only do women have other ways of like figuring out that you're lying if you're one of the guys who is doing this, they will ultimately leave you and you will deserve to get left in the end. So like it all comes out same in the wash. This woman said, I dated a guy like this for 7 months. He was shocked when I found out and ended things. I saw a ton of comments like that. Another person said, this is what my ex-husband did. Lied about everything and who he was. It's terrible finding the truth out. So yeah, like you're going to get dumped. It's not going to work out for you in the end unless you're just, again, a sleazy guy who's trying to like trick somebody into going to bed with you. But for those who are actually trying to get into relationships with women, like eventually it's all going to come down crashing on your head. So why expend all this effort for that? It is unethical and wrong to waste someone else's time. Everybody is given a finite amount of time here on earth. Some people get less than others, but either way, when you are somebody who is using another person to meet whatever needs you're getting out of that relationship while also having no intention of doing right by them, like that is really actually evil. And there's many examples of this outside of men lying to women about their political views. You have gay people marrying straight people. I've seen a lot of videos like that on TikTok lately. Like, watch this one.
I know a lot of people have been like messaging me, asking me what's going on, why I'm moving out. And it's because like I just found out that my husband and like the man that I've been with like since high school for like 12 years, like we have 2 kids together, and he just like let me know that like he's gay and that he's been gay and like he's been trying to fake it, but he just can't anymore.
This is devastating. Can you imagine building your life with someone, spending 12 years with them, having kids with them, and then they pull the rug out from underneath you in this capacity? And then probably half the left is like, yes, queen, go live your truth. Like, no, you are bad. Like, that is an awful thing to do to somebody. You also have the men with forever girlfriends, stringing women along forever and ever, wasting their youth and preventing them oftentimes from being able to find men who want to marry them and have kids with them. You've got people who will cheat on their spouses, who will go form whole other relationships, who will abandon the other parent of their kids. Like, this stuff is unethical and selfish, and I truly do not understand how people who do this kind of stuff live with themselves. But I guess what I'm kind of finding out is they don't. They just keep lying and hiding who they really are, probably even from themselves. When you are willing to lie and trick women into intimacy with you, you're kind of just backing up the liberal women's allegations that they make about Trump and the men who would condone his behavior. Because you are violating their ability to consent. You're a sleazebag. You don't respect women. You don't even respect yourself. Like, it's almost like the point for these guys is the ability to trick and manipulate these women. Like, that is what they're getting out of it. They seem to like actually be kind of gleeful in their ability to trick these women. It's not really about being able to just access women or get a girlfriend, because while a lot of left-wing women are claiming to be opting out and going for B, there are plenty of conservative women out there. So why would these guys who are conservative not be looking for conservative women to date?
There's this question of like, if there's so many conservative men and there's so many women who want to be trad wives, think Pearl, then why don't they go and find each other and end this quote unquote male loneliness epidemic? Well, the reason is that conservative men, they don't want a trad wife. They want to take a liberal woman in her creative and carefree and vibrantly feminine ways and constrict her and mold her to his will. This cultural insultum, it's not only pathetic, it's sinister. So if you're a woman watching this, like, the way you can resist this is continue that education, continue that career path, build yourself up to be independent.
Ooh, this information is going to be a tough break for the pick-me's and the trad wife wannabes, but I have been pointing out a lot of this for some time. The conservative men, at least those in these circles that we're discussing here today, I certainly, again, am not lumping all right-wing men into this BS, but these types that tend to be super MAGA and red-pilled, the kind that constantly are harping about women needing to be submissive and traditional, do not want the women who also want those things. They don't want the pick-me's. They don't want the trad wives. They don't want the women in church. They don't want the naturally quiet and submissive women. And that's because where this mentality is coming from, I think the feminists have been absolutely right in calling this out, this whole big push for women to be traditional and women to stay home again. It's not about what's best for women. It really is about subjugating and controlling them. They actually are just bad people, and their whole pining for the 1950s thing really is coming from a dark and seedy place. And if it weren't, there would be no need for this vast conversation and online ecosystem trying to convince women to give up their rights and opt into these lifestyles. They would just go and quietly marry the shy and demure women at their hometown church who are wanting that too. But instead, they fixate, and I do mean fixate, on the boss babes, the women who have options, women who have energy and vivacity, because getting her to opt into this like whole dom sub fantasy is a challenge and would actually make them feel worthy. And these guys don't have any innate self-worth. So getting a woman who is easy and who's quiet and who isn't a challenge to like come and submit to you, that does nothing to stroke their ego. But if they can find a woman in the wild who like has everything going for her and take her down a peg, that actually makes them feel like a man.
Let's talk to the fellas with this one. Y'all need to start dating your types, okay? What do I mean by that? Y'all want women to dress modestly, conservatively? Go date women who dress that way. Stop trying to date women who don't and then want them to change how they dress. You're being controlling. Go date women who don't like going to the bars and the clubs and girls' nights and girls' trips. Go date women who don't do that. That's your type. Stop dating women who live their life that way, and then you want them to change just because you're in the picture now. You're not protective, you're controlling. Go date women who don't post on social media half naked. There's plenty out there that don't. When you date women who dress half naked on the internet and you want them to change that, you're not being protective, you're being controlling. Go date your type. Your type might not be as attractive to you as these other women are, so you try to shame them and control them and whatnot. No. Go date your type. Stop getting on the internet and complaining about women that aren't your type for not being your type. Okay? Plenty of women out there.
I think a lot of the women's response to Trump winning has been super hyperbolic and exaggerated, and they've overreacted. And I made an entire video discussing that not long ago. But when you hear these kinds of conversations circulating online, it does make you take a step back and sort of put yourself in their shoes for why they feel the need to take more extreme actions, for why so many women are wanting to just opt out of dating, for why women are becoming more and more hesitant around men. Like, this kind of behavior is predatory. There's really no other word for it. The women in these scenarios are trying to do the right thing. They are finding out what their values are, figuring out what their priorities are, and then they're looking for a partner who matches them on that. And unfortunately, it seems there's a subset of men who are willing to lie and try to like get around that. And I think the whole thing is gross and disgusting. And I would really hope to see other men calling these losers out. But I also think that there is another thing that kind of is happening, I guess, in a parallel universe where the vast majority of men are not trying to trick women. I don't think they're trying to like lie to them or like get around their values. But I do think they tend to not care enough about these things themselves when they're going into the dating world. They often don't seem to have like flushed that out for themselves well enough to even be looking for that sort of match in a partner. And they tend to undervalue these things when it comes to selecting who they're going to be with. That was kind of rambly, so I'll give you an example. But I saw this tweet earlier this week from a woman who said, my brother-in-law is 6'2", a fireman, a homeowner, 5% body fat. I'm sorry, why do you know that? Anyways, she says 2024, he was a first-time voter, went on a date last night with some crunchy granola hippie. She asked if he had voted and for whom, and when he said Trump, she called an Uber and left. Natural selection at play. Now, this tweet went totally viral. People had a lot of thoughts, me included. From the comments, she went on to say that like he seems to be in his 30s. He's not 18. He didn't just vote for the first time because he just turned 18. He's older than that. She said she doesn't think crunchy granola hippie is a criticism at all. She was just using that as a way to describe this woman, and that her brother-in-law is just not super political at all. Like he didn't know that there were people who would react in this way. It just really surprised him. But like, to be honest, that doesn't make it any better. It actually just gives that he's pretty immature and doesn't know himself very well and probably isn't ready to be dating and looking for a partner because of that. Whereas his date does seem to know who she is, does seem to know her values, does seem to have some standards. And I think this is the larger problem here, is that men too often do not care about these things in women. Like we joke around as women, like on shows such as Sex and the City, but also online, like we talk about the taxi cab theory, which is basically the theory that for men, like they don't marry somebody because they like finally meet this person. Like they have this list of things they're looking for and they finally meet her and they're like, oh my gosh, I finally met this person who actually has all of the standards and qualifications I've been holding out for and looking for. And like, I'm so excited. And finally, like I've met my match and now I'm going to get married. No, it's more like they turn a certain age, they look around, they're like, I think I'd like to be married about right now. And then they flip their taxi cab light on and they just marry the next girl who comes along. And I wish that I could like stand up for you guys on this, but I can't because I've seen it happen. Like I've seen it happen in my own family. I've seen it happen with close male friends. Like it really is kind of crazy to observe, but I feel like most men, and this is why I want to have this whole video to discuss this, I don't feel like they know what to look for in a woman. I don't think they have a good idea of like what the bar should be. They really tend to just seem to care about like her looks, if she's sweet, if she makes him feel good, if she brings him mental peace. Oh my gosh, I hear men go on their mental peace rant all the time, which to me just says you don't have conflict resolution skills and are looking for somebody who won't bring issues to you. Like, I think that's actually a super toxic thing to look for in a relationship and probably will lead to divorce, because healthy conflict is good so long as you have the skill set to navigate it, and needing things to always just be like placid on the surface and not pay attention to what's happening beneath the waves is super problematic. Like this, you're not ready to be in a relationship. Anyways, that's my whole little rant about mental peace. But the overall point being, I really think men need to start caring more about women and having higher standards for them too. Like the fact that so many men would say that they don't care what a woman's politics are at all, that wouldn't be determinative of whether or not they would date her, I think is kind of odd, because what you're saying is that you don't care about her views, you don't care about her thoughts, you don't care about her values or how she applies them to the world, or worst of all, you think you're just going to change them once you marry her. Honestly, there's no better way for me to show you what I am talking about than to play you a few videos of a conversation that circulates constantly online where women are discussing going on dates with men and not being asked a single question about themselves the entire time.
I'm walking back from my first concierge dating service date, and I have a PSA for the men. It's a really, really freaking simple one. Like, you're gonna be annoyed at how simple it is, but I have to tell you, I went out with this person because this dating service called me one day and they were like, hi, we have a client in town who is interested in meeting you. Here are the details about him, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, oh wow, like this person sounds like an absolute catch, like awesome, like I'm down. I was really excited to meet them. And this person is a catch, and like all love. My one bit of feedback that I would share if they asked was, for the first like 45 minutes, they talked and talked and talked. And like, I'm a journalist at heart, and so I was asking questions and interested in what they were saying. But at a point, like 45 minutes, you know, that point is what kind of got me. I was like, all right, I'm gonna stop maybe asking questions for a second and just see like what happens if there's any reversal, like if they ask me anything in return. And they didn't really, and I didn't say anything. I was just like, I'm just gonna be silent and see what happens. And then it was silent for a bit, and they kind of realized like, oh, she's not carrying the conversation anymore. But anyway, and they were like, so tell me about you. And I'm like, okay.
I hate it when you talk to men about girls they're dating and they're like, yeah, we get along great. And you're like, well, what do you like about her? And he's like, she just really gets me. And you're like, yeah, but like, what's something else? What is she like? And he's like I said, like, we really hit it off.
Yeah, it always comes back to, I'm happy.
It's crazy. I talked to a guy once where he kept saying that, and I was like, let me stop you, because someone else is going to ask you this at some point. You need to say something about her.
Do you know anything about
Do you know
this
anything? Say she's funny, nice,
yeah,
hardworking, like any adjectives that are a separate thing from you. It was really, really upsetting.
Like, shocking to see.
Shocking to see.
Like, this is weird, guys. You should be genuinely interested in and like the women you are pursuing. You should care about her views and her mentality and her interests and her achievements. And I'm just not going to feel all that sorry for the guys who don't and then are crying in 8 years claiming that their wives left them over nothing. Like, no, she left you because you have a terminal diagnosis of main character syndrome. You're narcissistic, and you were more interested in her for what she could do for you or how she made you felt versus for who she was as a person. Politics is by no means the only measure of values. I'm not even sure it's like a good one in some ways, because again, when you have a two-party system, like being on one side or the other is a pretty crappy way to decide like what somebody actually values. They don't have a lot of options. Like, there are much better ways to dig into the core of somebody. But I will say that people who are using this as a litmus test are at least trying to find others with similar value sets, and lying to them is not only unethical, it's just going to create heartache down the road. And hopefully that heartache is just for you if you're one of the people doing this, but it potentially could hurt the other person. It could hurt kids that get created in the process. It could hurt friends and family and other people who are involved in your web of lies as well. So just stop. Don't do this. Figure out who you are, figure out what your standards are, and then go look for somebody who actually mirrors them. Stop trying to change people. Stop trying to go after people who are not aligned with you just because you think they're hotter or because you like the challenge. All right, quick housekeeping, guys. There will be no video or podcast tomorrow. I'm taking off to head to a wedding for the weekend for one of my dear friends, so I will be back with you Monday. Hope you have a great weekend. If you like this episode, make sure to like the video, subscribe to my channel if you have not already, and if you want even more content, you can follow me on Instagram, Twitter, or TikTok.